Do you have enough empathy in your relationship? That's a great question because I know that there's not enough in mine, but that doesn't stop me from trying to create more. Hi, I'm Jonathan Van Vegan. Thanks for stopping by to check out this video. I'm an online couples therapist. I help individuals and couples bring more empathy into their relationship to help them reverse the trends of separation and divorce. Why is that important? Because without empathy, that's where we're headed. A lack of empathy in your relationship is going to lead to things like feeling alone, feeling emotionally isolated. It's going to cause people to retreat in their relationship. And those are not good places to be. It's kind of where a lot of infidelity happens, or because there's a lack of empathy, there's a feeling of loneliness, isolation, partners retreating. So not only do we have issues with infidelity, you can have issues with alcohol abuse, drug use. There's lots of different things. Depression can seep in. So many different things can creep into our lives when we don't have that empathy from the most important person in our life. And that's why I want to talk to you a little bit about empathy today. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to tell you a story about my own relationship. One of the important things I think about my YouTube channel and about the videos I create is to show people firsthand what my marriage is like, what my life is like. Even though I'm a couples therapist, doesn't mean my relationship's perfect. In fact, it's far from perfect. I don't think that's the point though. I don't think we need to strive to perfection, but through this channel, through these videos, I hope to give people an inside look at some of the tools and the tips that I use to maintain a healthy relationship long term. But let's be honest, a healthy relationship long term comes down to one very important thing, and that's effort. So if you don't have enough effort in your relationship, you're certainly not going to have empathy in your relationship. You're not going to have emotional connection. You're not going to have a lot of things without that effort. So in my videos and on this channel, I want to talk to you mainly about the efforts and show you the efforts that I use in my relationship to create a happy long-term relationship with my wife. Doesn't always work. Sometimes it feels like an uphill battle. Sometimes it feels like I need to climb to the top of Mount Everest in one step, but I promise it doesn't have to be that way. All we need to do is take our time, but be consistent with our effort. Now, how does that relate to empathy? Well, empathy is something that you've got to create. It's something that you've got to, it's like making a cake. You got to bake it. You got to add the ingredients. You got to put the effort in. You got to look up the recipe online. It doesn't just happen out of nowhere just because we want it to. So how do we create empathy? Well, it starts by looking at how we have empathy for our partner in the first place. Now, if you go back to early on in your relationship, I'm sure when you guys were dating, when you were just getting to know each other, there was tons of empathy if someone was saying they had a bad day at work. There's tons of empathy there to be there for your partner, be supportive. What is it that happens in a relationship to a couple that over the years, empathy kind of slowly erodes or eventually disappears? That's the great question. If we could all figure that out, if we could take a pill for that, I'm sure someone would be a billionaire selling that pill. But the fact is that empathy without effort gets harder and harder and harder to replicate. So what do we do? How do we create more empathy? Well, I think it first starts by looking at ourselves and not to our partner for that empathy. It's far easier to start giving empathy than to expect someone to give it in return. So what do? Well, yesterday is a great example. Somehow along the line, I woke up and my wife woke up and our daughter woke up, our 2-year-old daughter, who if you follow my Instagram, you'll see her. Her name's Aria. She woke up. Anyway, Aria woke up, I think it was last week, and hit the terrible twos. Now, for some reason, this little angel went from yes, yes, yes to the only other word that comes out of her mouth is no, no, no. And as her parents, and as anyone who's had someone gone through the terrible twos or terrible threes, I've even heard of the terrible 18 months, it's extremely trying, it's extremely difficult. All of a sudden they refuse to do anything. Frustration, they have no patience, they get very frustrated, they throw things, they hit, they scratch, they kick, they pull. Anyway, our little angel woke up last week in her terrible twos. Now, that's in and of itself not such a big issue, but when we start sprinkling on all these other external stresses, that's where it gets interesting. So yesterday, I'm taking Aria and our eldest daughter, Charlotte. The three of us were going out for lunch. We go to our favorite restaurant. I order a plate of French fries for the girls. I get some steam buns and we get some noodle soup. We're all eating and we're having a great time. For some reason, Aria just doesn't want to eat anymore. She just decides that she's finished with her French fries. but she wants salt. And of course, we're not just gonna let her eat salt, because that girl could eat as much salt as you could produce if you just gave her salt. But this time I wouldn't give her the salt, so she reached for the soy sauce, and I pulled the soy sauce away because, yes, believe it or not, that little angel will start drinking soy sauce. But so here we go. I take away her soy sauce, and what does she do? She picks up her porcelain plate of French fries, launches it over her shoulder, and it smashes on the tile floor. Thankfully, there was no one else in the restaurant, but this was the start to my lunch with my girls. It was also kind of the start to our day because we'd just gotten out of the house, and this is what I had to look forward to the rest of the day. My wife Meredith was off. She got a new job, so she's really excited, really happy, really energized. I'm the one having to do dad duty for the day, and so I'm home alone with the girls, and French fries happen. Meredith has gone off to do her new job. I can't get into my work to start recording some more videos for YouTube. That's an aside, but that's also an external stress that's going on in my life, is not being able to create the content that I want to be creating. So we sprinkle all these things. Now on top of that, on top of the new job and the French fry incident, then Charlotte's coming down with a cold, and she's starting to feel sick, and she's getting a little bit whinier. And you know what? That's what kids do when they get sick. So all these things are kind of like layering on top of each other. And the next thing you know, 4 o'clock rolls around and Meredith comes home from work, and it's my turn to go to the gym. Well, I realized that we're supposed to go to a party at 5:30. The problem is that party isn't at 5:30, it's actually at 5 o'clock, and it's a dinner party. And now I've got to squeeze in a 15-minute ride to the gym, a half an hour workout, and a 15-minute ride back. I had lost all motivation. I'd lost all that get up and go. I wasn't ready at 4 o'clock to launch out of the door, jump on my bike, and go and do a quick workout, mainly because I thought I had until 5:30. Now I only have till 5 o'clock, so my expectations are completely destroyed. I have this expectation that I'm gonna get to the gym, the only thing I was gonna do for myself yesterday. Particularly, I needed it after the French fry incident, and now I saw that vanish. The problem was Meredith rolls into the house. She's really excited. She just finished her first proofreading job, so she's really excited about that. She's feeling energized. She's raring to go, wants to see me jump on my bike and get to the gym. And here I am laying in bed with the girls because it's so hot, and we were in the only room with air conditioning, and all I want to do is just lay and kind of collapse because I've kind of feel defeated essentially. Next thing you know, I'm not feeling good. I go downstairs. Meredith and I start giving each other the stink eye. She's feeling a little bit upset because she'd expected that she was going to have a great, energized moment when she got home with the girls, and that's not what happened. And the next thing you know, we're in the middle of a fight. Now, thankfully, we didn't have a huge fight because we're both kind of done with fighting. It's never going to stop, but it's just been extremely stressful the last few weeks, particularly with all the sick kids that we've been dealing with, and now these particular terrible twos. But that said, next thing you know, I start talking to Meredith about how I'm feeling a little upset that she came in barraging me saying, get to the gym, why aren't you at the door? And sure enough, when I start telling her that, how that's making me feel, she gets a little bit defensive. And that's completely normal that she's going to feel defensive because she feels like she did something wrong. Next thing you know, she's using words like, I'm not a great wife, I can never meet your expectation, I can never be supportive, I don't have the right amount of empathy for you. And then it kind of clues into me, and it clues into her at the same time that here we go down this path of waiting for the other person to have empathy for us before we can give empathy to them. And that is what the purpose of this video is, to tell you that if you wait and you hold that expectation that someone's going to display empathy first, you may have to wait a very long time. Rather than do that, the fastest way to create empathy in your relationship is to give empathy. So what I did is I walked it back and I said, stop. And here Meredith and I are having a fight, and all we're trying to do is have the girls go outside and give us a little bit of space, but they're not making it easy. We've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old following us around. So, I mean, it was probably good that they were there. We weren't raising our voices. We were having a good discussion, kind of a good disagreement, I guess is probably the better way to classify it. But it made it difficult for us to really talk about it. Then again, on the one hand, like I said, it was probably good because then we didn't raise our voices, we didn't yell, we didn't get angry. But the point I'm trying to make is, at some point, one of us had to stop and say, I need to display empathy, I've got to give empathy. And if we wait for that other person to do it, we could wait a long time. What did I do? I just said, you know what, I realize what's happening for me is today, because of the French fry incident, because of the terrible twos, because of the sick kids, Charlotte getting a cold coming on, all of those things, I'm feeling like I don't have the brake pads or the coping skills right now for when you come home and have this expectation of me to jump on my bike. I don't have that. I'm crumbling right now because it's stressful, all these external stresses. On top of that, one of the biggest things is I'm not feeling like I can create enough content. I'm not feeling like I can do enough. I'm in the middle of building my brand new website. All these little things sprinkled on, plus the larger stress of my work and my business, all make it so that I don't have the brake pads. It's metal on metal in my life right now. And that was an important aha moment for me that I could share that with her. And you know what? The next thing she did was she said, but you know what? I think I should have just come down and been, when I got home, opened the door, I should have asked the question about where you were at rather than make the assumption that you were jumping on your bike to go to the gym. And so here we have a game of one-upmanship where I was taking responsibility, saying, I don't have the coping skills, I don't have the empathy, or pardon me, I don't have the brake pads. And here she's saying, well, but it was my fault because I should have asked more questions. I should have been more inquisitive about what's going on for you and how your day was. So now you get into this game of one-upmanship, of who can take responsibility more for the fight or the disagreement or the argument. And when that happens, that game of one-upmanship quickly turns into a game of empathy one-upmanship. Who can display more empathy? And so the goal of a relationship is to take responsibility for your part. And when you do that, although that can seem an enormous challenge to see in the middle of a fight what your role is or what your responsibility is, as soon as you do that, you create room for your partner to do the same because you're not blaming them. And what happens when people start blaming themselves, and I use blame yourself because it's, for lack of a better term, the best way to kind of describe that is to just take responsibility for your role. But as you take more and more responsibility for your role, you'll quickly see that your partner takes responsibility for their role. And when that happens, that game of one-upmanship happens, and the empathy game of one-upmanship happens. Who can display more empathy for the other? That is the ultimate destination. That is one of the secrets to making a relationship work long term. Now, it takes a lot of effort to see yourself in that moment and say, hey, it's me, I gotta do something differently, I've gotta take responsibility. But when you start making the effort to do that, you're slowly gonna see that you're gonna get better at that. And effort in a relationship is like anything else, it takes practice. You can read Malcolm Gladwell's book of where it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in anything. Well, we're definitely in our relationship for more than 10,000 hours. We definitely spend a lot of time with our partner and our spouse. Why don't they deserve the same amount of our effort as a new hobby that we're gonna pick up or a new language that we choose to learn? So I'm here to say, make a little effort every single day to take responsibility for your role in the relationship, and you're quickly gonna see your partner do the same. And when that happens, empathy's there, connection's there, that long-term happiness is there. So that's my little tip of advice, how it related back to my life, and just to, again, show you that I'm dealing with this every single day in my relationship. And I would hazard a guess that there's not a single relationship in the world that couldn't benefit from more effort and more empathy and partners taking more responsibility for their role. Thanks so much for watching this video. In case you haven't, hit subscribe if you want to be notified, and the bell if you want to be notified of any future videos. I'm starting to create more content, and I'd love to take you on the ride. So thanks so much, and we'll talk soon. Bye now.